Cool. I'm ready. Nice. Vaibhav, right? I'm going to get it right here. Tell you, we're live now. So if I get it wrong, everybody's going to know I got it wrong. And you probably have people that are going to watch this and go, that idiot. Come on. So there we are. We're live just like that. We're on Instagram. Everybody, welcome to the Patrick Carr Show. We got a great episode here for you today. Folks, let me tell you what. You might have thought a 4.0 GPA was good. All right. That was cute. Okay. And heck, for me, I was like a 6 point something other GPA over at Armwood in Hillsborough County. This guy's just tearing me apart. Okay. Vaibhav, thank you very much for joining us. For those of you who don't know, we did a story about you. Had to be about 2 weeks ago now. And what you were able to accomplish. You are the record holder for the highest GPA in the history of the state of Florida. Nice job, man.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the show. And I mean, I've got so many questions that I want to ask you, brother.
Yeah.
First question for you is, where did this dedication to school and to academics come from? There are a lot of people that, they enter into going to high school with the only goal is just to graduate. You obviously had other plans in mind of how to spend your time and make the most of your education. Talk to me about it, brother.
Yeah. So I would say around middle school, definitely my parents placed a very high emphasis on school and kind of just doing well. And I think there I developed that work ethic. And coming into high school, honestly, through my 4 years, my parents, it wasn't kind of just, they didn't really push me that much. It was kind of just, put forth your biggest effort and you should be fine. But coming into high school, I did have a goal of being valedictorian.
Okay.
And then my freshman year, actually, the story got published of the highest GPA in Florida with an 11.84, which was the previous record holder. And I saw that and I was like, wow, that's awesome. And I think from then I kind of just wanted to beat that goal, and that kind of became my, high school goal.
So you knew it, right? When you saw that, you're like, I can beat that. I'm capable of beating it. You immediately knew I could beat that.
Yeah.
Okay. So people who may not be familiar, because I'm a little bit familiar with how weighted GPAs work. Even back, I'm 39 years old, back when I was in high school in Hillsborough County. How does someone gather that much above a 4.0? How does the weighted GPAs work, or how did they work? Because this has stopped now. So you will be the record holder for all time.
Yeah.
How did it work for you?
Yeah. So Hillsborough County is definitely an outlier in calculating GPAs. The way it works is you have your unweighted GPA, which is just the max is a 4.0, and then your weighted GPA, which is the 11.99. And basically how it works is you start at a 4.0, and each AP, honors, and dual enrollment class you take, it adds to your GPA. So an AP class will add 0.16 for an entire year. Meaning, let's say you take 3 AP classes, right? That'll add 3 times 0.16 onto your weighted GPA.
Got it. Let's not get into numbers here today, okay? But I wanted, because dual enrollment was something that I did.
That's right.
It was great for me, and actually I found it to be challenging at the time because I went to Hillsborough Community College.
Gotcha.
And there were some social courses that you could take there that I found to be very interesting. And so they offered some that came to our school, and we were able to do some dual enrollment through the school as well. What courses were you finding to be interesting? I know you're going to Duke here, not to, we'll break the ice right now, everybody. He's going to be a Duke Blue Devil. What stuff were you finding was most interesting to you while you were in school?
Yeah, I'll say I've always been a math person. I've always loved math, economics, finance. So I think going into HCC, I really enjoyed taking those intro to economics classes. And I think on the math track, I really pushed myself. And my sophomore year, I finished AP Calculus at Steinbrenner. And that was kind of like the last high school math class at my high school. So I definitely, leveraged that opportunity. At HCC, I took classes like discrete mathematics. And then my junior year, actually, they started offering UF dual enrollment.
Okay.
So I managed to take, I think, 6 UF classes in high school.
Wow.
And there I took analytical geometry and calculus 3 my senior year.
Congratulations right there. And so economics is something that it sounds like the math is something you're good at, but that is part of your passion for economics.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So tell me a little bit about where this passion for economics, where does that come from for you?
Yeah, so I would say it's just, there's 2 answers I have. One is kind of like the academic answer. One's like kind of my passion. So the academic answer I tell people is, it's a mixture between math, which I've always been good at, and it's kind of a combination between markets, incentives, human behavior, right? And I really find that stuff interesting. But realistically, like my goals are kind of to break into, office. In the future, I hope to get into policies somehow. And I think having a good foundation in finance, economics, really knowing how markets work, I think it's really necessary, and it should really serve as a foundation for policy, I feel like, for myself. And that's why I kind of took advantage of that. And that's kind of my goal, to pursue that and hopefully get into policy one day with that.
I want to return to policy with you because I think you're going to have a unique perspective on us, or for us, about maybe some of the things that are going right and wrong at a national and local level, in your opinion.
For sure.
And I'm very interested to hear it. But I want to continue, though, on the Hillsborough County school system and more broadly on the Florida school system.
Gotcha.
You're involved with it. Your friends are involved with it. They're commenting on the video that we made. So I know you got your friends out there that are seeing this. What is your friends are talking on a Friday night about what is right and wrong. I don't know why you'd be doing this, but if you were talking about what's right and wrong in the school system we have right now, where is it doing something right? And perhaps even where is it failing students at the high school level?
Okay. One thing I say that's doing right, they're definitely offering us, every opportunity they can offer us, right? With APs, these dual enrollment programs, these special accelerated programs for students who are interested and passionate about education. They have the opportunity to be able to do so. But I think that's kind of the, biggest con as well. Some schools place greater emphasis on, academics and kind of taking an accelerated path toward learning. And that gives those students a better opportunity. Whereas some other schools place greater emphasis on, sports, which isn't a bad thing, but there's also, they have less resources and aren't able to do so. You know what I mean? And some schools, pay for AP exams. AP exams cost money to order. Some schools cover that cost. Some schools make students pay for that cost. And that kind of places a barrier for students who want to take more AP classes, but aren't able to because of costs.
Okay. I want to ask you, I want to piggyback off that technology in the schools right now.
Yeah.
When I was in school, rewind 20 years ago, textbooks were a big thing.
Yeah.
Have we migrated out of textbooks yet? Are we still using these outdated textbooks? I mean, I would assume we got to get people up to date on what's going on with Claude Code.
For sure.
I mean, using this stuff on a regular basis. What do you see at the high school level?
I would say it depends on teacher to teacher. We're definitely making that transition from, that old textbook style to kind of PowerPoint's more modern technology. And I would say it really depends on the teacher, but we are making that transition. And that's another thing I want to talk about is AI. It's, completely integrating into education at the high school and college level. And again, it could be, a great blessing, but it could also be a great curse, right? So the way I feel like it's definitely beneficial for both students and teachers. Teachers can integrate into their, teaching. They could create, lesson plans, workflows with that. But again, students are taking advantage of AI. It's really easy to kind of just ChatGPT, a worksheet, right? And, it definitely places some caveats on the education system and, how we're approaching things, right? Yeah.
So I've got a theory about this. Let's work through it together. I think that there are a lot of teachers out there that are not using AI to its full capability because they're afraid of what it could do for their job and their position within the school.
Yeah.
And, one of the rules that I put into place here in my company, we've got a bunch of people that are young videographers, media people around here. They've graduated and they are better with AI than what I am. I made a deal with anybody that comes on here. You will stay an employee of mine no matter what, as long as you don't do something malicious to this company. You do your job and I will keep you here. The reason for that is what I was finding is that there were people that were not coming forward with new AI, new ways of going about things, because they were afraid that that would replace their position.
I see.
And so what I wanted them to do is I said, come to me, let's implement new ways and new technology without you having to be afraid to lose your job.
That's right.
That's how I think that we begin to implement this stuff at a higher level. And when I look at teachers right now, I have to think that some of them are sitting there and going, yeah, I mean, I could show them how to do that, but then they wouldn't need me for this and this. Right. What do you think about that? Because I've got to think that might be happening at the school level.
It's definitely understandable, I would say. I mean, watching your students take advantage of AI and, working hard on these assignments that you're putting forth, kind of trying to prepare them, and they're just using AI. But it's definitely something that's necessary, I would say. In the next 5 to 10 years, AI is, completely going to take, over like I would say computer science field. And it's definitely needed to adapt. We definitely need to adapt with that because it's capable of transforming the whole education field, for both teaching and learning.
Yep. Do you have a favorite go-to when it comes to AI?
I'm actually not very well versed. I'm not
really.
I wasn't a big fan of AI just because of the whole education thing, because again, I wasn't a big fan, but I saw peers around me kind of taking advantage of AI, and it was this whole big thing. But yeah.
How is that then in schools right now? Are there teachers who are telling students no AI in my course, or that, are they telling them you have to, in other words, do you have to write everything out to make sure at least that you're writing it?
Yeah.
How are teachers combating people cheating versus utilizing the technology that we have in front of us? What are you finding at the high school level?
I would say it's definitely like a fair share of teachers, kind of making more stricter assignments that say, no AI, but others kind of just, I feel like they kind of ignore it. You know what I mean? Like they know it's happening, but they're just like, it's whatever. And I think it's definitely a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that it's something that, like you said, it can be used as a great tool, but it also could be used as something to kind of bypass the learning.
For sure. Yeah.
But then, I kind of think back to calculators, right? Is a calculator a bad thing now? No, it was something that came along. At first, people fought it. We have to do everything handwritten.
Yeah.
But then it became something that was just a part of our culture and our school system.
Yeah.
I wonder how AI will be integrated into that.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what you see on the ground that is working really well. And I don't want to talk about the courses, but I'm talking about teachers. I'm talking about lessons plan, how they do it, how the school system is set up. Like, is 7 a.m. to 2:30 working right now? I'm talking about just the setup itself within the high school system. Is it set up well right now, or are there things that you would change?
I think, for me personally, it's set up completely fine.
Okay.
And I feel like no matter how you change it, there will always be complaints from some students.
That's true.
But yeah, I feel like the time for on the topic of time, it's working fine.
Okay.
One thing I feel like would work better is teachers getting feedback from students. I know some teachers who kind of resonated well with my student body at Steinbrenner. They kind of try to relate to students, right? And try to get feedback, what's going well, what's not working, and kind of just being open and being, having good communication skills with students. You know what I mean?
It's tough. I mean, like, I find that some teachers are, at least from what I remember, there were some teachers who valued their students' opinions, and there are some that just didn't want it. I think because they were afraid of criticism. And sadly, it kind of felt like they didn't have enough maybe confidence in themselves, even as an adult, to take the criticism from a 17-year-old in their class. And so therefore they avoided that kind of stuff. One thing I do around here is every year I get together with everyone and we do that. Like, you're going to tell me the things that I'm not doing right. And Lord knows, I mean, Anthony or anybody else, they'll tell me on a daily basis, because we've got to have that open dialogue if people are going to get better. But it's difficult because you've got a 35-year-old, 40-year-old teacher, 16-year-old student. Sometimes that dialogue doesn't happen right there.
Yeah, for sure.
You started an investment.
Yeah.
What do you call it? An investment club?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, most people are like, I don't know, playing sports. An investment club. Where did this come from, and what did you do?
Yeah, so at Steinbrenner, it's actually pretty common to start your own club.
Good.
And coming in, was so passionate about economics and finance, and it's pretty common like among my peers as well. You know what I mean? Like, I want to go into finance. It's kind of become like a trend. But I remember this moment at like lunch where I was asking my friends, like, "Oh, you're interested in finance? Like, what do you like about it?" And they didn't even know what the S&P 500 was. And from then I was like, "Wow, I mean, like, it's becoming like common to like finance, but the education is just not there. There's like foundational classes like AP economics, AP micro, macro, but they don't teach the foundational skills like investing, stocks. And I think that's really important. And that's where investment club came in. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you start saying like, okay, I can figure this out.
Yeah.
I need to help people out here.
Yeah.
So you start getting together like what, a couple times a week, a few times a month. What do you start doing here?
Yeah. So Steinbrenner, there's club day every month. Cool. And basically we just have a meeting. And what I started implementing with investment club was we'd use this stock simulator, and it'd be like this, free stock simulator. And basically it kind of be like mock trading. Basically, you get to trade, you get like $100,000, and we just make investments. We test things. And I kind of just saw student opinions, what they thought and how they approach things. And, watching groups kind of approach these strategies and hearing their thoughts, it was awesome. I loved it. And it wasn't like anything where I was teaching them, right? Because I was on the same level as them. I was kind of learning beside them, right? But it was a very cool thing to learn. Yeah.
Interesting. I want to know your opinion about this, and let's jump into this a little bit. So I see a lot of people right now when it comes to crypto, all right,
Yeah.
that are treating crypto like, in my opinion, a piggy bank,
Mm.
right? It's, hey, listen, let me buy low on crypto when I see the dip,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to sell it high. Then there are other people who think that that's not real investment. All right. There's multiple sides to this thing.
Yeah.
What are your ideas and thoughts on where crypto is going in the future? I'm going to put you on the spot on this one. We didn't talk about it beforehand, but it's a big topic right now in markets.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on crypto?
I think around the 2020, 21 time, it was booming, right? Crypto, that's when like Bitcoin, all of that was booming. And I don't think you've heard of it. NFTs, like those drawings. Yeah. But I think now,
thing, man.
Yeah, I know.
Like a drawing, millions. I mean, it's, but it's, hey, there. Okay, I got it.
For sure. Yeah. I think it definitely had its time, but I'm one of those people who think it's kind of shifting away. It's definitely a valuable thing, but I think where the money is right now is definitely like stocks, investments, the S&P 500, the market. People can definitely leverage that. And it's always been, it was a historic thing. I think crypto, it's more modern and it kind of came in through its time and had its peak. And I think it's going away. Yeah.
Tell me some of the, let's go back to this investment club. You all are getting together. What are some of the principles? And I'm not saying you were teaching it like you said, but you brought everybody together.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, right now you're a guy with 11.99 GPA going to Duke. You got to, I want to hear from you. I mean, shoot, man, you're more of an expert than I am. Okay. So no, break this down for me here.
Sure.
What are some of your principles for investing as when you sat down to do one of these mock, $100,000? What are your principles that you try to adhere to?
Don't be desperate. So don't rely on luck. I think one thing we really tried to emphasize was research, right? People really wanted to jump in as soon as we started to just invest in this, invest in this. Oh, it's going up, invest in this. But one thing that's really needed is research, seeing kind of like the buy-ins, valuations, the quarterly reports of the company. They're so important and no one talks about it. I mean, it's, I think, one of the most boring parts of, investing stocks, you know what I mean? But it's very vital in knowing what to invest in. And I myself had my failures. I mean, I've lost a lot of money. But I think one thing that's very important is research, knowing your stuff. And of course, no one knows when a stock is going to go up, down, but it's definitely important to research, kind of be patient and don't rely on luck. Don't be desperate. Like, oh, I need this to go up now. Don't do that.
One of the things that we've seen in the market, we talk about it a lot on this show, has been the immense amount of layoffs for tech companies in the last year. I think the first story we saw early in the year was Oracle, Cloudflare. We had Meta, of course, multiple layoffs for Meta throughout this year. Do you see that continuing in the AI, or let's say in the tech space? We do. I think it's just the beginning of what we're going to see. These companies tend to value efficiency, and so do their shareholders.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's funny, when Meta made those last 10,000 person layoff, their stock jumped through the roof. Because there's one thing Wall Street values, it's efficiency. Do you see that trend continuing? Because I'm interested, because you love the markets, right? We've got thousands of engineers, thousands of people that are being laid off here every single day, perhaps, so we don't even hear about right now.
That's right.
What do you think happens to these people with this AI boom that we have? Where do these people go? Where do they find work that's meaningful for them?
Yeah, it's a very, very good topic. Yeah. So for sure, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, the computer science field will have its hard time. I think we're definitely going to shift over to kind of the hardware side, quantum computing, engineering. But yeah, as for the software people, I think it's very needed to adapt. Kind of maybe they go back for education, kind of, get a degree in AI. Some colleges are starting to offer AI as, majors, which is amazing.
Cool.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be a hard time. It's definitely needed to adapt. And the same argument could be made for, consultants in the finance industry as well. You know what I mean? Like, if AI can tell me, what to do, then why would I need to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right?
See, I think it's interesting to me. I've for our taxes, let's just put it that way. For our business, I have somebody that I pay over in Tampa to handle our taxes. And it's because I can speak to him about the nuance of what is going on. And I think there's a lot of nuance in economics, and I think that's the same thing in the markets. Like you said, if you do research on a business, right, and you see that Chipotle has brought in a new CEO, and then you look at the history of that individual and what they've been able to accomplish, there's nuance in that. right? Like, for instance, just because that guy took, I don't know, Olive Garden. Well, I don't know, an Olive Garden, yeah, okay, it's still quick service, but I don't think those things align right there. And I think there takes a little bit of nuance in the research to be able to be a smart investor
For sure.
with or without AI. Do you agree?
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I see that all the time right
Mhm.
there. Talk to me about this. I want to talk about athletics inside of schools, okay?
Yeah.
And I mean
course,
this
yeah.
because, like, I think more and more, how to put it, I think athletics matter less and less to high schools
Mhm.
than they did 20 years ago. And frankly, I'm kind of happy about it. Now, if y'all know, I went to Armwood, which is like big time football school,
Mhm.
all that stuff. Love that. Cool, great. I think that athletics matter less now. I think that people see that there is so much more available to life because you have access to that thing in your hand and you can see so much more of what could happen for somebody that when I was in school, I was like, athletics is what I knew.
Mhm.
I didn't have the world opened up to me. Do you think, now I could be way off. You might tell me, Pat, athletics are still bad, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you see that being something to where people are starting to open up to there's more than football, baseball, basketball? Like there's more to this world than that. What do you think?
I definitely do see that trend. I mean, compared to 20 years ago, there's definitely a stronger emphasis placed on sports then.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, go to say that sports aren't, valued now, right? And I think there's definitely a split of schools where they value, sports and those kind of extracurricular activities versus, academics and kind of more like things like robotics, investment competitions, right?
Love that.
And yeah, there's definitely that trend. I mean, now that you say it, I've started to notice that that's not something I've really thought about. But at Steinbrenner, we like very much place like a good emphasis on like well-roundedness, right?
Good.
Academics and sports. So that's not something I was kind of exposed to, kind of placing too much emphasis on academics.
Mhm.
And that's something that's good because I feel like the student can take their own path. You know what I mean?
Good.
If they want to be academic, they can take that route. If they want to, be athletic, they can take that route.
Okay. I want to talk to you about being well-rounded and how social media is influencing young men and women
Mhm.
in schools. We talk about social media a lot. We do a lot of business on social media.
Mhm.
I love it. However, I am a firm believer that overall there's been a net negative from social media on society. Even though I use it every single day and our business uses it every day, I still can say, and I believe there's been a net negative. Let me explain. I want you to tell me what you think
Okay.
is happening at your level right now. When I was in high school, with the iPhone had just come out. I'm going to date myself here a little bit. And so we just began to get access to the internet as I'm graduating, like real internet, not like flip phone crap. All right. I don't think I would have had the same. I don't think I was mentally strong enough at 17 years old to go looking at pictures of some guy who's 20 years old in the Caribbean on a boat or jet ski while I'm sitting there in the same pair of pants and the same shirt I've worn 3 days in a row because that's all I had. Like, I would have, what is that? The comparison, the thief of joy, comparison is the thief of joy. I would have just sat there looking at that stuff and going, wow, man, my life's not like that. I don't have that stuff. I would have been really hard on me. How do you balance, or how do you see kids in high school are balancing social media, or are they balancing it? And it's just, listen, it's everywhere. It's a part of everything that we do.
Yeah.
Tell me about what's happening on the ground.
Yeah, I would say on the student side, it's definitely like a problem, I would say.
Okay, so it's a problem.
But right now they've started, placing greater value on mental health, right? And that's kind of become like an initiative at Steinbrenner. Like I remember going to this one meeting where they kind of emphasized mental health. If you ever need someone, you can call this number. And, what you see on social media isn't actually real life. And they've started to kind of mention that and acknowledge that. But it's definitely, a big thing. And a lot of kids try to be like that, you know what I mean? Like they try to show their lives on social media. But yeah, it's definitely become like a big problem. Yeah.
How did you balance it? I mean, to be able to accomplish what you have,
Yeah.
the distractions are still there for you,
For
like
sure,
they
yeah.
are for everybody else. So what was your plan? How did you do it?
I think I would say placing limits for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I had no such thing as like screen time limits. Honestly, my parents let me have like full, venture over social media and the internet. But, one thing I kind of self-acknowledge myself, like, there needs to be a limit where I have to stop and kind of just focus on school. And I think I had my priorities set. And I think if you have that, then you'll be fine. And I think I mean, when I meet kids who aren't exposed to social media, let's say their parents don't let them kind of have access to social media, they're very focused, but they kind of become too focused on, academics or whatever they're interested in, right? And I feel like, when you're like, it's important to having like a social life, you know what I mean? I think it's very good in kind of, development as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I do believe that people get so focused on the academics or, like you said, on one thing that they forget that you've got to live life a little bit.
Mhm.
And if you want to talk about, let's say, economics,
Mhm.
I mean, you've got to understand how people
For sure,
operate.
yeah.
It's not just numbers on a
Exactly.
spreadsheet. The people that are the best at it understand people, in
Mhm.
my opinion.
Yeah.
And to do that, you've got to be able to converse and actually have a
Mhm.
conversation.
Yeah.
One of the things that we have covered on this show previously has been bullying inside of schools.
Mm.
My hope is that this has dramatically been reduced, but I'm scared that it hasn't. When you're there at the ground level, high school, middle school, you went to public school for both, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, same here.
Mhm.
Okay, I went to Burnett Middle School, and then I went to Armwood High School over there in the Seffner Brandon area. So what do you see out there on the ground? Because I'm gonna tell you what, you seem like the kind of guy that would stick up for somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, like I mean that.
Mhm.
And there are also, but there are, I don't know, there are crappy people everywhere. Tell us is that happening still? Is it happening in a different way than maybe physical? Is it more mental now? What is it? What's going on there at the high school level?
Yeah. So what I've seen is it's kind of shifted toward that, traditional bullying kind of archetype people kind of, know.
Yeah.
I feel like when you come into high school, you'll find your own people. You know what I mean? Like people have these kind of, almost hierarchies, like these invisible hierarchies, right? Where they kind of associate themselves with these people. And, I've never seen anything as far as like, physical abuse or anything
Yeah.
like that, but it definitely takes a mental toll when, people aren't accepting of you. And I think that still happens. But from what I've seen, and again, Steinberger emphasizes community, and I've never seen anything bad, but it definitely exists. But, within those hierarchies, I think judgment is a big thing. People kind of judge without even getting to know the person. But
Tell me about
yeah.
that. Why do you think that is? I mean, because I think you make a really good point. And I think probably judgment now could go a few levels deep, because when I was in high school, it might just be the clothes that you wear or the car that
Yeah.
you drive. But now could it be your social media following? Could it be like how many views? Do those things actually play into how somebody is perceived?
Absolutely. And
Really?
one thing
Holy crap.
one thing I've experienced is people will judge based on political beliefs. And
What?
Exactly. Yeah. I find that crazy, but I think, what happens is students get these views from their parents,
Yeah,
right? And they kind of, think of themselves as higher up, and, people who don't agree with their beliefs, they kind of just like, why do they think that? You know what I mean? And, I can't speak that much on it because I'm still a student, but that's one thing I've seen. And yeah, it's definitely a problem for sure. Yeah.
One of the things that I've said before is that everybody in this world is shaped by their experiences.
Yeah.
And that what we try to do here is we don't try to attribute anything to being malicious. That could just be ignorance.
Mhm.
All right. It's much more likely that somebody's just dumb or uninformed than they are malicious in their intent. And so when we try to have on this show, we had Jay Collins, who's Lieutenant Governor for Florida.
Wow.
He'll be on here in a couple of weeks. And last week, we had the front runner for mayor, a Democrat.
Mm.
And we tried to go ahead and try to get different perspectives, because who am I to say that person is wrong?
Exactly.
I'm going to assume that they are trying to do the right thing. They just have a different way of going about doing it than what I do. And so when I think about people judging others for a political opinion, if you have that, I'm going to tell you what, you probably are just getting that from your parents around the dining room table. And they probably can't tell you more than maybe one surface level deep about why they believe a certain thing. Yeah, I agree with that one right there. Like, people, come on, open your eyes up, try to see different perspectives that people have, and then come to your own.
Yeah.
I try not to be blue, red, Democrat, Republican, donkey, elephant thing. I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Be your own person.
Absolutely.
And then decide from there what is right and wrong and good.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a really good thing right there. I want to turn to more broadly, okay? Being that you're an economics guy, all right, you see trends that are going on. What do you like right now, if you're not in the state of Florida, but nationally, if you're investing your money, okay, where is that investment going right now? Give us a little, pull back the curtain a little bit here, if you will. What's the investment look
For
like?
sure. With AI revolutionizing everything, definitely systems, hardware systems, quantum computing. I believe quantum computing is going to be the next big thing, kind of supercomputers, those microchips. Definitely going to be the big thing. Yeah.
Work with me here, because quantum, when I hear that, I go, man, that sounds awesome, but I don't understand it. So my audience won't either.
Gotcha.
I think about NVIDIA chips. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. But when quantum computing, is this just the speed? Like we see about all these data centers, that's in the news we cover a lot.
Yeah.
What do we need to know about quantum computing? What is that even?
Yeah. So quantum computing, to put it simply, is just it's kind of the new kind of evolution of the computer, right?
Okay.
And with AI revolutionizing everything, kind of these AI models that need to be created, that's what quantum can do. They can create these models. And with, hardware becoming the next big thing, AI taking over kind of the basic tasks like coding, software engineering, I think that hardware is definitely going to be where it's transitions.
Yeah, I think you're right. When I got the lesson in that was when we try to find these Apple Mac Minis and we can't find them anywhere. So every one of my people are on these Mac Minis that are over here. And so when we've probably got 20 or 30, I don't know how many of them we got a lot of them. And so, but then we started to look for them because they're the best for running AI, especially for running code and on the back end. Okay. And we couldn't find them. You can't find them anywhere. We were like, eventually we can get them on order and stuff. But it did get me to believe exactly what you're saying, which is it's going to be the hardware that makes a huge difference, right? And I look at the hardware that an individual person can acquire, and they can become a whole company on their own.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think, going back to one thing we were talking about, all these people that are being laid off, I think what you're going to find is that a company like ours, we may look for an AI integration specialist, right? At a small level, a company like mine doing 3 to 5 million is going to look for one of those guys when 10 years ago, that wasn't even a position that was available within a small business. I think you could see a trend going to that. I think like a roofing company or an HVAC company could bring in one of these guys and say, okay, help us take us into this new age of doing things because we're so far behind right now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just come to my mind when I think about where these jobs could actually go.
For sure. Yeah.
But okay, so hardware. What else do I need to invest in right now? If you're looking at the S&P 500, if you're looking across, where should I be putting my money? Help me out. We're not a financial advisor. Disclosure, blah 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 blah. And I did not use this as financial advice. We are not okay. We're not licensed. All this stuff. Okay, but where should I put my money? Tell me.
Definitely. So, of course, do your research, but companies who are actively evolving, right? And I can't even name specifics, right? I'm no expert, but I think what to look for in a company is people who are evolving, right? The whole landscape is changing with AI, and definitely look for companies who kind of adapt to that. You know what I mean? Who try to survive and adapt, and kind of those are the ones who will thrive in, our future landscape in the future. And that's where you make your money.
You know what? I agree with you 1,000% on that. People who are willing to adapt. You do see some companies that seem to be stuck. When we're talking about marketing right now, which is what we do a lot. One of the things I've noticed is that some of these larger S&P companies are still hesitant to get into social media because they're so used to doing things the way they always have.
I see.
And I've told our companies for a long time, if you've got great content and you're willing to put your name out there and put your face to something, take a little bit of negative comments that are out there, then you can do well because the big dollars haven't invested yet at a level like that.
Yeah.
Now we're seeing private equity move in a lot. And that brings to my next question here for you. I want to know this because you've studied this stuff. Okay. There's private equity comes in and buys, I don't know, a company that builds tables. All right. They're all about efficiency. They want to cut cost. They want to increase profits. They want to turn this thing around and they want to sell it. Right. I think there's a place for that. I worry that we've become too profit centered here in the US, that we've forgotten about people. If I looked at the efficiency of Blue Collar Media Group, I could terminate some people and we could be more efficient. But those people lose their jobs, right? You want to go out there, and I think I have a feeling that you're going to influence policy out there, okay? And I'm looking forward to you coming back on the show in a few years when you've done these great things at Duke. I'm interested to know your thoughts, though, because isn't there a balance between profit and people and a business? And even when you're looking at a business and you're researching it, do you find that there's still a balance there as well?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think, yeah, people are definitely shifting towards that kind of, profit and efficiency, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, it's inevitable in a capitalistic society, you know what I mean? And that's where care economics comes in. It's really important to emphasize the people aspect, and that's why I love economics so much because, it combines, like I said, markets, incentives, and human behavior, which I think is, fundamental for markets to function, right? But yeah, it's definitely some companies definitely are, showing care to people, but others not. But I think it's inevitable.
Care economics. What does
Mhm.
that what does that entail? Help me out with this.
Yeah.
What is that?
So care economics
I
is
like it.
basically just it's basically just markets, but kind of focused on the people side, the people aspect, and human behavior and incentives, and how kind of they influence markets.
Uh, Interesting you say that. I have a guy, friend of mine, sold his company. I'm gonna say large 9-figure exit on this
Wow.
one, okay?
Yeah.
Local,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna go any more than that. Large 9-figure exit, okay?
Mm.
Then he has to drive by that company, right? He's got to drive by that office that he looked at for 15 plus years, right? And then he has to hear about people in that company being laid off.
Mm.
And the people that helped build what you got that 9-figure exit for.
Yeah.
Good for you. Okay, good. But then you had to drive past that place.
Yeah.
You've got to hear about that person not having a job anymore that worked with you for 10 years.
Mhm.
You've got to see that what you built isn't being built by the same people that got you there. And I think that a lot of business owners who are thinking about selling to the big private equity,
Yeah.
and I think they should take this care economics in mind, because if you're not I don't know, a sociopath, you probably care about people
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely.
And at the risk of just getting the most profit, if that means that you've got to see that person in the Publix line 3 weeks later after they
Yeah.
lose their job, is that worth it to you? Like, I really think that
Mhm.
business owners should be asking themselves that
Sure.
question
Yeah.
before they exit out of a company.
Absolutely.
That the care economics, that's what
Mhm.
resonates with me.
Absolutely, yeah, I definitely agree with that, but, there if I mean, people just think if I can stomach it, they can just, do it, right? I mean, and I think it all comes down to what they define as success, right? Some people, wanna see others thrive, and other people want, themselves to thrive, and no matter what, they wanna make it to the top, and I would say both perspectives are understandable, but you definitely need to, take into account what others feel and, where
Yeah.
they'll go after, yeah, for sure.
What are they gonna do, man? Like, I
Absolutely,
see some guys, like, worked alongside a dude for 15 years. Maybe he was, like, a project manager, or, like,
yeah,
working alongside him,
yeah.
and then he gets a big exit, and then
Mm.
that dude's left in the company with some private equity firm from
Mm.
Chicago that moves in and goes, "You're not necessary anymore.
I
Get
see.
rid of him," right?
Yeah,
And that guy built something alongside another dude for 10 plus
yeah,
years. That's a tough thing right there.
for sure, yeah.
And so I see that in our industry, and yeah, it's something that I think care economics. I like that.
Mhm.
People need to care about other people.
Absolutely.
What's the future look like for you?
Mhm.
All right, because you're going to go to
Mhm.
Duke,
Mhm.
and hopefully you're going to come back on the show in a couple of years with these
Mhm.
things that you've accomplished over
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, I look forward to it.
Mhm.
Um, what do you want to accomplish? What,
Yeah.
because you said, I love what you said. What does success look like? What does success look
Mhm.
like to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, some people kind of wanna keep it anonymous and just make as much money as possible. For me, I'll admit, I would definitely wanna make a name for myself, right? And that's kinda what I did coming into high school. I defined these goals and put in all of my effort to accomplish all of them. On my whiteboard, I actually made a checklist, become valedictorian, break the state record, get into a top 10, just like that. So,
Let's go.
I'm planning to do that when I come into Duke, but the plan is kind of, meet a good network of people, surround myself with, individuals with similar ambition, and I think that's the greatest opportunity you get when you go to a school
Yep.
like Duke. And once that happens, the goal is get into high finance, kind of get the experience, get the foundational skills in economics, and then I definitely want to pivot into policy. The end goal is kind of influencing policy. One thing I'm very passionate about is economic inequality, and I've been a part of a couple nonprofits, and that's something we want to address. And that's something I've seen in downtown Tampa. Like you said, it's expanded very rapidly. And with that, opportunity has come massively. But also, there's become like this widening gap between the rich and the poor. And
Mhm.
that definitely needs to be addressed with, rising rents. There's this whole issue with landlords, wages, and that's another thing why I love economics, because, every major problem we face, whether it's in education, wages, health,
Mhm.
there's always an economic component. And I feel like when making policy, you need to have that foundation in economics to really understand what you're changing and who you're changing.
Yeah. Economic inequality. It's definitely a big thing that not a lot of people want to touch on.
Yeah.
And I like the way that you're approaching this from an economic perspective
Mhm.
rather than a social perspective. Because
Yeah.
I think when you start talking socially about inequality,
Mhm.
then you start getting the left and the right, Democrat,
That's right,
Republican,
yeah.
all that crap.
Mhm.
But when we just talk, sorry, everybody, there's a Frenchie
Mhm.
down here. But when we talk about it from an economics perspective, right, then we take things like skin color out of the way. We take things like what party you're adholden to out of the way. I like that,
Mhm.
right? Because we should be after the greater good for all of us.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
And I believe in equality of opportunity rather than equality of outcome.
Mm.
So I want everyone to have an opportunity to go to Duke,
Okay.
right?
Gotcha, yeah.
If you work hard and you do what you're
Mhm.
supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that everybody has the right to go to Duke. Okay.
Okay.
So I want the equality of the opportunity for me.
Mm.
Work hard, you do what you're supposed to do, and you should be able to do what anybody, if you do the right things, right?
Yeah.
And the closer we can move to equality of opportunity, I think the better off we are, right? Because then I think somebody who goes into high school says, hold on, I can do what you did,
Mhm.
because they feel like if I put in the effort, I'm going to get the outcome that I should get for that hard
Yeah.
work.
Mhm.
But you touched on something that is very important to me, which is homeless.
Mhm.
All right. Do you see a lot of that in Tampa?
Yeah, so I'm a part of a nonprofit called Back on Track America.
Okay.
It's student led, and what we do is every Saturday we volunteer at a homeless shelter or food bank in downtown Tampa, and we just serve meals. We get a group of volunteers from Steinbrenner, and we kind of just meet with the homeless, set up tables, serve food, and it's definitely something we've seen, and it's something I'm very passionate about. I mean, these people are just, living on the streets, and it's kind of like an obligation to the city to provide them with the resources they need, right? Because no
Mhm.
one should be living like that.
No.
And it's definitely being addressed. I mean, I've researched some policy that's being made, but it's definitely hard because there's this whole issue of education, getting into the workforce again. I mean, these people face so many barriers, right? And that's where I feel like people should go out for the greater of the good, and
Yeah.
kind of just go out and help. Yeah.
I tend to believe that, and this is why I've often looked at things, that everybody is three circumstances, situations, or decisions from being where that person is.
Mhm.
And don't be so ignorant as to believe that you can't be that person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've seen people that have lost a wife or a husband. I've seen them, then lose their job. And then, there are things, and then they get sick. I mean, there are things that can put somebody in a really terrible situation.
Yeah.
And the empathy that we can have for another person, I think, is very, very important.
Absolutely.
And I think there are people watch my show on the far right. Okay,
Mhm.
man, what is that whole entire thing? They basically need to pick themselves up by their bootstraps and all that stuff. Go get it.
Yeah.
And then there are other people on the far on the other side who
Mhm.
say, we need to give all the help and housing and do all that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I believe that, again, let's just find the middle ground right there where
sure,
we
yeah.
can give people an opportunity to make something themselves.
Yes.
Not saying it's going to be easy, but that we can do that for other people.
Mhm.
And it sounds like that's something you really care a lot about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Where did that come from for you? What
Yeah.
did you just see somebody and you were like, man, you know what? Because
Yeah.
of the way you were brought up, you got empathy for them?
Yeah, I feel like it's less of empathy, more of just seeing. Okay, so when I was a child, we moved to 7 states, right? I've lived in Philly, New Jersey, Kansas, and with
Wow.
this,
It's a little different.
yeah, I've seen these, persistent barriers, right? And when I came to Tampa and I became part of Back on Track, I'll be honest, I just joined to get some volunteer hours for, graduation's requirement. But as I started volunteering more, I started to grow more passionate about it, right? Seeing what we could provide. We have the opportunity. Why don't we do so? And that's when I started kind of bringing other people in, and, now passing it off to the younger generation of Steinbrenner, seeing those kids kind of growing passionate about it. It's awesome to see. But yeah.
Man, that is really cool right
Mhm.
there. What have I missed about you? I always ask all of my guests this.
Mhm.
If there was a message or something you came here with and you're like,
Yeah.
I would love people to know this about you, your family, your message, what you want to accomplish. What have I missed?
I think one thing is definitely, I feel like when people hear 11.99, they think of this kid who just, stayed in their room and, took a bunch of online classes. And, if I heard of someone in my grade get 11.99, break the state record, I'd think the exact same thing. But one thing is, I'm a people person, right? I would say my GPA, like, it's definitely a byproduct of my work ethic, right? I've kind of, I've been involved in nonprofits. I love organizational leadership, and I love, just talking and meeting new people. And this work ethic I've kind of developed, I think that my GPA was just a byproduct of that. I never focused on classes. Although my goal was to break the GPA record, I never really focused on that. I kind of just took classes and it just kind of became of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. How did you, I want to ask you this question because I'm hoping that there's going to be a young person that gets something out of this. The distractions are inevitable at the high school level.
For sure, yeah.
Girls, drugs, parties, sports, whatever else it could be that can take you away from your goals and what you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
How did you stay focused on your goals? Was it reading? Was it being involved with your family? Was it actually having perspective of being involved in volunteer work? If you could name a couple of things that allowed you to stay focused while other people struggle with just getting to class, what was it for you?
So I'll say this.
Tell me.
Everything I've been involved in, it was because I was passionate about it. I did no such thing like volunteering, taking classes. They weren't distractions at all. It was because I enjoyed that, so I pursued that, right? And, my advice to, the younger students is don't try to copy what everyone else is doing, right? If you follow what you enjoy, just do that. That'll work out best for you. And as for the distractions part, I think for me, it was just the way I brought up, in like my family and culture, things, like drugs, like it's not really like, we don't really talk about it because, we just aren't really interested in that type of stuff. But yeah, everything I've done, like from classes to organizational leadership, starting clubs, research, all of that, it's just because I pursued what I was passionate about. And that's what kind of kept me busy.
Do you think there are kids that are out there, young men and women, that are afraid to pursue their passion though? Like for me, I never said this before on a podcast. I had this thing where I was going to be this athlete in school, and that was what school was for. I really wanted to do drama instead. I wanted to do like be on stage. But I had this image in my mind of like what I was supposed to be. My father looked at me and said, "You're going to play this and you're sports, and that's what you're going to Armwood and play sports. That's what we're going to do." But really, I thought theater I would have been a lot better at, and I would have enjoyed a lot more. And that to me was a regret because I didn't follow my passion, right? Because I let other people's opinions of me dictate what I should and shouldn't do. And that's why I think I enjoy doing stuff like this with you, is because it's not performative, but it's like we get a chance to talk and experience, and there's a little bit of back and forth right here, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that when I looked at drama and theater, I thought there was a lot of that. There was an emotion that you got to interact with the audience and have them experience with you. But I didn't follow it because I was so afraid of what other people would think about me. That I didn't follow my goal or what I was passionate about.
I see.
Do you see people do that?
I'll say this, it's definitely not talked about enough.
I agree.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people are ignorant about it because, they don't, they can't experience it, right? They'll just think like, oh, they want to do that. Why don't they do that? You know what I mean? And it's definitely not talked about enough. There's definitely this social stigma like, oh, what will people think of me if I do this, right? But honestly, I mean, a lot of people say this and it's very common, but I think it needs to be reemphasized. Just do what you love, right? Follow what you love, and that's that. Yeah.
Do that, man. Like, because you don't get a second chance. I mean, yeah, you can come back to doing it, but we always think there's going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow becomes next week, and then next month, and then it leaves. There's no better time than yesterday, and the second best time is right now.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage people to do exactly that.
Absolutely.
I think that you are somebody that, shoot, man, they need to make like a Netflix documentary about you. I'm so intrigued to see what you're going to do over the next 4 years. You have a personality to you. You're engaging. You seem to have empathy for people. And yet you're going to Duke. You've got this investment side. You understand markets on top of that and math. I mean, you've got this whole well-rounded thing that I think is what our country needs. Make me a promise, though. You come back here from school. You got an open invite to come on the show. Tell me what's going on up at Duke. All right. anything like that, come back on, discuss anything that you like. It's an open door policy for you anytime.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Fair
much.
enough, man.
Very much appreciated.
Man, thanks for coming on
Means a
here,
lot.
brother. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank you. Here we go. Till next time, everybody.